I walked into that party thinking I was just going to be another shadow carrying trays. But within minutes, I became the target. A silly accident with some wine became an excuse to put me on the ground, in front of rich people, laughing as if humiliation were part of the buffet. I endured it in silence, until the fabric of my uniform tore, and the whole ballroom stood watching, waiting for me to collapse. The worst part wasn't the tear, it was understanding that, to them, I wasn't a person, I was the help. And just when I thought I was going to leave there marked forever, the doors opened, and in walked the man I feared seeing most that night, the family heir. He looked at me, looked at his own sister, and I saw a contained fury in his face that didn't match a party. But what he did next wasn't screaming, it wasn't calling security. It was something so absurd the whole room stopped. And that's where the story becomes a double-edged sword. Because his gesture didn't just expose his sister's cruelty, it exposed a secret that family tries to hide behind luxury and smiles. And when the mother grabbed the microphone, I understood, someone was going to leave that night, destroyed, and it wasn't he going to be because of a stain on a tablecloth. I entered that ballroom holding a tray of glasses as if I were part of the decoration. Everything shone too bright, golden balloons, tall arrangements, people laughing with their mouths while sizing you up with their eyes. It was the 60th birthday of Cynthia Hargrove, the woman who runs her social circle like she's directing a cast. The sound was a mix of low music, rehearsed laughter, and the clinking of crystal, that noise that sounds expensive and cold at the same time. I moved through the tables like a shadow, dodging strong perfumes and conversations about trips I would never take. My uniform had seen better days. The fabric was thin in some spots, and the hem had where I tried to hide with posture. Even so, I kept what I always keep, a steady gaze and a straight spine. Because when you are invisible in a place like this, the only thing you have left is your dignity. I remembered that with every excuse me that no one answered, with every glass extended without a please. I wasn't there to be noticed. I was there to finish my shift and go back home where a boy was waiting for me, too wide awake for the hour. I would pass a group and hear snatched phrases. She's impossible today. Blair looks just like her mother. Did you see the dress? The daughter, Blair Hargrove, circulated like she owned the world, laughing loud, touching people's shoulders as if they were her property. I already knew the type. People who have never heard no and think politeness is a favor. She saw me once at a glance and saw nothing. To her, I was furniture. And that kind of contempt, it doesn't come with a scream. It comes with certainty. In the middle of the night, the room seemed to tighten. That S, when I needed to cross a crowded area with a bottle of red wine and 2 quart glasses, I felt someone bump me, a loud laugh too close, and the edge of the tray gave a slight jolt. One drop fell, just one, red, vivid, going straight onto the white tablecloth as if it wanted to report my presence. I froze for a second, watching the stain spread, small, but enough to become a topic. I bent down immediately, automatic, cloth in hand, trying to fix it before it became a spectacle. But when I knelt, I heard her heels stop behind me, and then came that voice, too sweet to be good. Look at that, she's actually going to clean it on the floor. The laughter round was low, curious, like an audience smelling blood. I kept scrubbing, without looking up, because I knew, if I looked, she would want more. And I felt by the way the room went quiet that Blair had just decided I was the entertainment of the night. I stayed on my knees, scrubbing the stain as if it were just work. Cloth going back and forth, slow, in no rush to show panic. I heard people gasping, those discreet ohs from people who love a minor disaster when it's not happening to them. The expensive perfume mixed with wine made me want to run out of there, but I stayed. Not out of beautiful courage, out of necessity. I had bills, I had a shift to finish, and I had a boy at home who depended on my yes every day. My uniform scratched my knee, the rough fabric under my stockings, and I felt her gaze on me like a hand pushing my head down. Blair didn't need to touch me to command, she just needed to speak loud enough. You spilled on my mother's birthday. The sentence came out with that poisonous calm of someone who wants to turn an accident into guilt. I swallowed hard and answered quietly, professionally, I'm sorry, Ma'am, I'm cleaning it now. My voice stayed steady on the outside. Inside, I just kept my hand working, as if the movement held me in place. The worst part wasn't her. It was the room, because the room chooses quickly which side to take when someone becomes a target. There were those who looked away, pretending they didn't see. There were those who watched like it was a reality show. And there were those who smirked, complicit. I've learned to identify those people, the ones who only respect those with the right last name. I gripped the cloth until my fingers complained and focused on the basics. Finish this. Get up. Get out of the line of fire. In my head, a flash of my phone vibrating earlier with a message from my son Eli. Mom, what time are you coming back? I had replied soon with a silly emoji, as if soon were an easy promise. I thought of him sitting on the couch, pajamas already on, fighting sleep just to see me walk through the door, and that gave me a dry, hard strength. I couldn't fall apart there, not in front of those people. I wasn't going to give that gift to Blair. When I finally managed to disguise the stain, I started to get up carefully, trying to leave without becoming conversation. That's when Blair stepped to the side and blocked my path, like someone closing a door with their own body. She tilted her head, looking at my collar, and said loudly, for everyone to hear, "No, no, stay there. I want you to learn." The silence grew heavy, waiting for the next blow, and I saw her hand go up slowly, not to help but to grab me. Blair's hand went up slowly and stopped on my shoulder, as if she were choosing where to squeeze. It wasn't a strong touch, it was worse. It was casual, like someone touching an object to reposition it. "You're going to stay there," she said, smiling at the nearest table, "so everyone can see how to fix a mess." I felt my jaw lock on its own, and I kept holding the cloth, because I knew any sudden movement would become an excuse for her to make it worse. The whole room seemed to have held its breath, just to watch. "Look at me when I speak to you." The voice came out light, almost childlike, but the order had steel in it. I raised my face just enough not to look like a challenge. Her eyes shone with that pleasure of someone who finally found a target that can fight back. "You're trembling," she teased, loud enough for 2 tables to hear. I didn't answer. I just adjusted the cloth on the table carefully, as if every fold were a way to keep myself whole. She giggled and looked at the guests. "Guys, it's always like this. They make a mess and pretend nothing happened." Someone let out a nervous laugh. Another person looked away at their drink, feigning concentration. And there were those who grabbed their phones and lowered the screen quickly, as if they were just checking the time. I saw it all from the side. Because when you live being treated as invisible, you learn to see the whole room without needing to look at anyone. Blair took a step to the side, as if conducting a show, apologized properly, to my mother, to everyone. She opened her arms, theatrical, and the room went quiet in the cruelest way. That silence that isn't respect, it's expectation. I swallowed hard and spoke, without raising my voice. "Sorry for the accident. It won't happen again." I chose every word like walking on glass. Blair looked bored. "No, not like that." She leaned down a little, close to my ear, and spoke softly, "Just for me. You think you're people in here. You are the help." And then, she returned to the loud, sweet tone, "Say I ruined the party." I squeezed the cloth until my fingers turned white. In my head, my son Eli passed again, waiting at the door, and I thought, endure it, and get out of your hole. I breathed short and said, as neutrally as I could, "I ruined the tablecloth. I will replace it." She laughed, satisfied, because it wasn't about the tablecloth. It was about breaking me. Blair reached out and pulled the edge of my uniform, analyzing the fabric like it was a rag in a display window. "Wow, this thing was already old before you were born." She pulled lightly, just to unbalance me, and I had to brace my palm on the floor not to fall. A snap of fabric sounded near my shoulder, small, but real. The room held its breath again, and I saw, in her look, the decision happening. She wasn't going to stop at embarrassment. She was going to mark that night on my skin, the way spoiled people mark property. The second pull wasn't an accident. Blair grabbed my uniform firmly, as if holding a bag. and twisted the fabric just to show she could. I heard the rip before I felt the cold air on my skin dry. Ugly sound that cut through the music like someone had turned off the room for a second. The seam opened near the shoulder and went down a bit, and I was exposed in a way that wasn't just physical. It was pure humiliation, made to stick in the memory of whoever watched. I froze for half a second, and then my body went on automatic. I pulled the torn part to cover myself, trying to compose myself fast, as if speed could erase what happened. I didn't cry. I held it. I held it because I knew she wanted exactly that, my breakdown. My voice didn't come out. I just stared at the floor and started to get up, slowly, cloth still in hand, trying to get out of the center of that invisible circle. But Blair stepped in front of me again, blocking me, and let out a loud, satisfied laugh, like someone who just won a trophy. My God, look at this. She spoke to the whole room, pointing at me. She comes to a party like this, dressed like that, and still thinks she deserves respect. Some guests looked stiff, uncomfortable. Others pretended, playing with glasses, talking to the person next to them as if nothing was happening. There was a man who opened his mouth as if to say enough, but his wife pulled his arm and he stayed quiet. I saw that and almost laughed inside. It was so predictable. Cowardice at rich parties always comes with a polite smile. Cynthia Hargrove, the birthday girl, was near the cake, surrounded by people, and only then seemed to notice the noise had changed. She looked in our direction with that expression of someone who doesn't want problems in photos. It wasn't worry for me. It was worry for the vibe. She didn't come running. She didn't yell at her daughter. She just raised her hand like someone trying to control the scene from a distance, and said something like, "Blair, stop." But her voice came out too weak to compete with her daughter. And Blair heard it the way a rich child hears a rule, as a suggestion. "Are you guys shocked?" Blair asked, laughing. She spilled wine and now wants to leave, pretending nothing happened. She leaned in, grabbed the edge of my uniform again, and I took a step back because I wasn't going to let any more of her on me. My jaw locked hard, and I heard my own short breath. I wanted to get out of there. I wanted to leave with the shred of dignity I still had. But I also knew, if I left in that moment, I would leave as the guilty one, as if I had caused the scene. I finally raised my face and looked at the whole room, not at Blair, at her audience. "I didn't do this on purpose," I said, low but clear. It was the first time my voice truly appeared that night. "I just work here." The word work hung in the air like an uncomfortable reminder of what no one there wanted to face. Blair opened her mouth to reply, and I saw she was going to do worse. She was going to turn my sentence into another joke. But before she could, the door to the ballroom opened with a snap louder than any laughter, and the way the air changed warned me that someone important had just walked in. 5, the door opened and, for a second, I heard nothing but the sound of footsteps entering, firm, rhythmic, as if they weren't asking anyone for permission. A man crossed the room in an impeccable suit and a look that didn't match a party. It wasn't the look of someone coming to toast. It was the look of someone coming to cut something. I recognized him instantly. Grant Hargrove, the oldest son, the heir who almost never appeared, the pride of the family, the kind of man guests greeted with caution because he was power with the face. He didn't smile. He didn't greet anyone on the way. He just came straight, and every person made way as if the path were automatic. Blair tried to laugh again, as if he were going to join her game. "Grant, look at this," she started, pointing at me, still kneeling, holding my torn uniform. That was when I saw the rarest thing in the world in an environment like that. A rich man looking at an injustice without pretending it's not his business. Grant stopped a few steps from me and looked first at the tear in my uniform, then at the cloth on the table, then at his sister's face. And he didn't ask what happened, like someone looking for an excuse. He asked low, dry, "Was it you?" Blair made that face of someone who can't believe she's being questioned. She tried to turn it into a joke. She spilled wine. Grant raised his hand, a small gesture, and the whole room went quiet. I felt my hand grip the fabric on my shoulder, an instinct to hide, but he stared at me with an attention I hadn't received in years. "Get up," he said to me, not like a boss's order, but like someone who won't accept seeing me on the floor. I hesitated. My head screamed, "Don't expose yourself." But something in his firmness pulled me. I stood up slowly, holding the torn uniform, trying to cover as much as possible without looking desperate. I heard a murmur run through the tables, because, for those people, it was as if the scene had changed owners. Grant turned to his sister again. "You tore her clothes, in front of everyone." It wasn't a question, it was a statement. Blair opened her arms, mocking. "Oh please, drama. She's the maid." The word maid came out like a license for anything, and I saw Grant's jaw lock. It wasn't a show, it was restraint. He stood motionless for a second too long, and in that second I thought, he's going to explode, he's going to scream, he's going to tell everyone to shut up. But he did something different. Something I hadn't seen anyone do for me in that kind of place. He yanked his tie off, undid 2 buttons of his own shirt and, without hesitating, grabbed the fabric at his chest. I saw his fingers pull hard. The sound of the cloth tearing was loud, louder than my tear had been, because now it was a deliberate shock. And he threw his own shirt open, torn, as if saying, "Look at me now." The room froze. Blair was voiceless, and Grant spoke, staring at everyone as if pointing out a truth no one wanted to hear. "If she wears rags, I wear them too. Because this woman has more nobility than many people in here." The silence after the sentence was so heavy, I heard a spoon clink against a plate at some distant table. And I knew, in that instant, that Blair no longer had control of the party. But I also knew something else. When someone challenges a rich family in public, what comes next is never simple. And, by the way, Cynthia looked at her own son as if seeing a secret SKI realized that wasn't he, just the defense of an employee. It was the past coming back through the door. I stood still, holding my torn uniform, trying to understand if that had really happened. Grant there, with his own shirt open, torn at the chest, breathing short, not caring about the stares. The guests didn't know where to put their hands. Some lowered their faces. Others stared as if they were watching a family fight no one was invited to witness. Blair seemed frozen in place, mouth half open, as if someone had taken away her right to command that room. Grant took off his suit jacket with a quick movement and came to me. "Monica," he said, and when he spoke my name, the whole room understood he knew me for real. He placed the jacket over my shoulders carefully, covering the tear without making me feel like a wrapped object. "Sorry," he spoke softly. "It wasn't sorry for what you went through. It was an apology from someone carrying old guilt." I swallowed hard, because I didn't know what to answer. I just managed to adjust the jacket fabric and hold it tight, as if it were an anchor. Blair tried to regain control with sarcasm. "Oh, so now you're a hero." She laughed loudly, scanning the guests for support, defending the help in front of everyone. Grant turned slowly, and his calm was scarier than a scream. "The help," he repeated, as if the word tasted bad. "You're talking about the woman who kept me alive when I was a child." The whole room seemed to lean forward. I felt my face burn, but I didn't lower my head. I wasn't going to hide now. "You don't remember because you were little," Grant continued, staring at his sister. "But I remember." He pointed at me with an open hand, not accusing, just stating, "When Mom was busy being Cynthia Hargrove, it was Monica who picked me up from school. It was her who cleaned my knee when I fell. It was her who gave me food in secret when I couldn't swallow anything because I was scared." Cynthia took a step forward as if to cut him off, but stopped. And that detail hurt me more than any word. She stopped because she knew it was true. I felt the air get heavy, not just for me. It was because the perfect image of the family was cracking in front of everyone. Grant looked at the guests and spoke as if addressing a court. "If anyone here thinks it's normal to rip a working person's clothes, then this party isn't a party, it's a zoo." A woman near the head table brought her hand to her necklace, shocked. A man coughed, trying to break the mood. No one could, because the sentence had hit the mark. Blair tried to attack where it always works. Status. You're embarrassing us, she shot back. You're destroying Mom's birthday. Grant didn't even blink. The embarrassment was already here. It was just well dressed. He looked at Cynthia and, for the first time, his voice got lower. Mom, are you going to stand with her, or with cruelty? Cynthia gripped her glass tightly. I saw the glass almost sing in her hand. She looked at me as if I were an inconvenient memory, and I understood. She was going to have to choose in public. I said nothing. I just stood there, jacket on my shoulders, standing, finally, and in that instant I felt something I hadn't felt in that room in years. I was invisible, but I also knew visibility has a price. And Cynthia's next word was going to decide if I left there protected, or if I left there marked forever. Cynthia stayed silent for a few seconds, and it was a silence full of calculation. I knew that silence. It was the same one she made when a supplier was late, when an employee messed up, when something threatened her image. But now the mistake was in the middle of the room, with 100 people watching. She placed the glass slowly on the table, as if the movement were a decision, and looked first at Blair, then at me. And when she spoke, her voice came out firm, trained. Blair, enough. The sentence seemed right, but it had no warmth. It had no indignation. It was damage control. Blair widened her eyes, offended. Mom. She pointed at me as if I were guilty for existing. She spilled wine. She disrespected me. Grant cut in immediately. You tore her clothes. Cynthia closed her eyes for a quick instant, and I saw the micro-action. She pressed her fingers on the edge of the table, as if holding back an old irritation. I heard, she said, and then she turned to me. Finally, Monica, go change. It wasn't, are you okay? It wasn't, I'm sorry. It was, hide yourself. And that went through me. I was going to answer, but Grant stepped forward, as if protecting me like no one had done before. She's not going to hide, he said. She didn't do anything wrong. Cynthia raised her chin. Grant, don't turn this into. She was going to say drama. I saw it on her mouth. But he didn't let her. Into what? Into truth. He pointed at the room. Everyone saw. Everyone laughed. Everyone pretended. Some people looked away immediately. Others were paralyzed. Because when someone says out loud what everyone knows, the air changes. Blair tried to turn the game around again, now attacking my dignity. You want to take her side? Then marry her. Nervous laughter popped up at two tables, quick and cowardly. I clutched the jacket to my chest and stayed standing. I wasn't going to kneel again. Grant stared at his sister with a cold calm. You're proving the point, he said. You think humiliating someone makes you seem bigger. He looked at me and spoke to the whole room. She created more character in this house than money created in many people here. I felt my throat close, but I kept my face up. I just came to work, I said, louder now, no tremor in my voice. I didn't come to be a show, and I won't accept someone ripping me apart like I'm not a person. The words came out and stayed. An older man near the cake nodded slightly, as if finally someone had stated the obvious. Cynthia stared at me, and for the first time I saw real discomfort in her, not with me, but with the fact that I was speaking in front of her audience. And I realized, what she feared most that night wasn't her daughter's cruelty, it was the loss of control. Grant turned to his mother again. You're going to fix this now, he said. Direct, not tomorrow, not in private. Cynthia pursed her lips, looking around, measuring the room like it was a chessboard. And then she did something I didn't expect. She summoned the DJ's microphone with a gesture. The DJ hesitated, but handed it over. Cynthia took the mic and the room got so quiet you could hear the air conditioning. She looked at Blair, and I saw the sister swallow hard, for the first time without a smile. Cynthia drew breath and said, I need to say something before the happy birthday. And I understood right then, if she spoke the truth, Blair would fall. If she pretended, I would be discarded. The next minute was going to decide who left that party destroyed. If you've ever had a boss like this, subscribe to the channel, because the payback I saw that night was deserved. Cynthia held the microphone with both hands, too close to her mouth. as if that could stop her voice from shaking. She swept the room with her gaze and forced a short smile, the kind that serves more for photos than for life. I want to apologize, she started, and the word apologize sounded strange coming from her, like a dress that doesn't fit right. Blair took a step forward, ready to interrupt, but Cynthia raised her hand, and this time it wasn't weak, it was an order. No, Blair, you're going to listen. The whole room stood still. Cynthia pointed at me with the microphone, and for a second I thought she was going to push me back into the corner, but she said, Monica isn't just an employee. She helped raise my children. She was here when I was absent. The sentence came out like an involuntary confession, and I saw some guests glance at each other, shocked not by me but because the perfect socialite had admitted failure in public. Cynthia continued, voice harder, and what happened today was a disgrace. She looked at Blair. A disgrace caused by cruelty. Blair laughed, nervous, trying to turn it into a joke. Mom, stop, you're exaggerating. Cynthia cut her off, and the cut was clean. You tore her clothes. Blair froze. The room held its breath. Cynthia didn't look away. You are going to apologize now, and you are going to pay for a new uniform, and you are going to do it looking in her eyes. Blair turned red, looking around, seeking support, but no one moved. Without an audience, her bravery withered. She took the microphone with a shaking hand and stared at me as if I were an enemy. Sorry, she let out, dry, without a soul. I could have accepted it and walked away. Many people would have, but I felt the jacket on my shoulders and thought of my son waiting at home, learning from me what it means to be treated right. I raised my chin. I accept the apology, I said clearly, but it's not just with me that you need to learn. It's with anyone you look down on. The silence that came after was different. It wasn't curiosity. It was respect being born a bit crooked, late, but real. Grant looked at me as if he were proud in a calm way, without infantilizing me. The happy birthday happened later, kind of broken, but it happened. And when the party started trying to go back to normal, I felt something change in me. I wasn't the woman kneeling, scrubbing wine to save a rich person's tablecloth anymore. I was someone who spoke, standing up. On the way out, Grant leaned close and spoke softly. I'll never forget what you did for me. I answered only with a nod, because I was holding back tears the way I held back the whole night. Outside, the cold air hit my face, and I took a deep breath, as if the world were bigger than that ballroom. I got on the bus back home, with the jacket folded on my arm, thinking all that was just one night, but it wasn't, because the next day, I was going to have to decide if I went back to that house, or if I finally used that newfound dignity to change my life for good. And I knew, after what happened, no one there would be able to pretend I was invisible again. The truth is, I went back home that night and hesitated to open the door, because I didn't want my son to see me with the rest of that humiliation on my face. When he ran to hug me, I held him tight and felt something simple, but brutal. I couldn't keep accepting crumbs of respect just to keep the job. The next day, I went to work again, but not to bow down. I went to close a cycle. That party became the talk of the entire town in the way rich people hate, without control. And karma came fast, because Blair lost what she liked to use most as a weapon: easy approval. She tried to spin it, tried to play the victim. But no one forgets when a person shows who they are in front of a full room. As for Cynthia, she learned the hard way that appearances don't protect you when your own house is rotten on the inside. Her apology was the first real act of responsibility I saw in that family. Grant sought me out afterwards, not with money in hand, not with pretty promises, with actions. He paid for my new uniform, yes, but mainly he made it clear, in front of everyone, that no one would lay a finger on me again. And he did something bigger. He helped me find a job where I didn't need to walk around afraid of being humiliated on a whim. I didn't become rich, I became free. And that is worth more than any golden ballroom. I don't forget the scene of the rip, but today I understand that sound wasn't just cloth. It was the last stitch of my submission snapping. And I learned one thing I want you to take with you. When someone tries to belittle you in public, what defines your life? Isn't their cruelty. It's the moment you decide not to accept it anymore. If this story hooked you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And tell me, if it were you, would you have accepted the apology or walked away right then?